is no longer just a retail game. It's a full-blown institutional land grab. Public companies and other institutions bought over 131,000 Bitcoin in Q2 of 2025. That's the equivalent of 3 times the newly mined supply every single day. Public company stacks alone now represent a staggering $94.1 billion. Currently, 171 public companies and other institutions now hold Bitcoin. MicroStrategy, one of the leaders of the pack, obviously, with 597,000 Bitcoin. And they just announced another $4.2 billion offering to stack even more. Metaplanet has become Asia's MicroStrategy, now holding over 15,000, actually 15,500 Bitcoin after a recent 2,200 Bitcoin buy. And even Semler Scientific, a biotech firm, just increased their stack to over 4,600 Bitcoin. And that's just what's public. Behind the scenes, capital allocators, hedge funds, and other companies are quietly buying at levels we've never seen before. Sounds bullish, right? Well, maybe, because there is an uncomfortable truth. Not every company is MicroStrategy. Saylor has cash flow. He's been through a bear market. But what happens when debt-laden companies treading water ape into Bitcoin just to juice their stock price right before the market turns? What if we were to get another 80% washout? Do these players hold strong, or are they forced to dump and cascade us into another liquidation spiral? And here's the kicker: despite this unprecedented amount of buying, the price has been decidedly sideways, barring today's little bump. So could we be witnessing the silent weight of paper Bitcoin? Are ETFs, derivatives, and synthetic exposure diluting the real signal? Or is today's little uptick the first sign that this institutional buying is finally exerting enough pressure to send us upwards? What does the Bitcoin treasury boom, from the hype to the hidden risks, really mean for this and subsequent cycles? Today, we're going to discuss this and much more with an incredible panel of guests. We've got Larry Lepard, author of The Big Print, Matthew Kratter, host of Bitcoin University, and Anil Patel, author of the Bitcoin Handbook and the upcoming book, The Treasury of Michael Saylor. Stick around. This one's going to be a banger. I am Ben with the BTC Sessions, and this is your bullish session. All right, I want to welcome to the stage Mr. Matthew Kratter, Anil Patel, and Larry Lepard. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. How are you guys doing?
Doing great, Ben. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Glad to have you. So gents, I mean, you heard my little rant off the top. It seems to be the cycle of Bitcoin treasury company. Anil, you're literally writing the book on this. Matthew, I saw you drop some videos recently on Bitcoin treasury companies with a nuanced take on it. Larry, I'm sure you've got thoughts in and around this. So my general question to you guys is, where do you sit on this massive trend of we love Bitcoin, buy our stock? Is this okay? Is this okay for now? Is this a problem that is brewing? Where do you sit? So maybe Anil, I'll go to you first, then Matthew, and then I'll get Larry's take. So Anil, where are you at with this? You're writing the book on it.
Yeah, but I'd probably defer to these two gigabrains here. I guess my take is it's fairly inevitable. There's a lot of capital out there that just cannot access spot Bitcoin via their mandates. So they're going to look for other avenues to get that exposure. But I got to throw it over to Matthew and Larry for this one.
All right, Matthew, I'll toss it to you. I saw, you chatting a little bit about maybe the difference between somebody like MicroStrategy and Saylor versus other entrants. Where do you sit on the whole Bitcoin treasury trend this year?
Well, I would say that there are risks that people aren't aware of, and there's certainly a lot of passion in the space as well. If you say anything negative about them, you get. I'm not sure if they're bots or AI agents or real people. But you
Maybe that's why we
definitely-
got taken offline here. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But I think one of the risks that I think it's risky for people who don't have a TradFi background and may not be aware of all the intricacies when it comes to capital structure, when it comes to the order in case there's a liquidation. And people are aware of the problems with debt. But one thing I highlighted in a recent video is that there can be a problem for a company that is unable to issue debt and tap the credit markets if they're small or micro or medium-sized market cap. This wouldn't really apply to a MicroStrategy, but you could be subject to the Bitcoin treasury company could be subject to a speculative attack or some sort of hedge fund attack, where they're doing basically what Chanos is doing. Jim Chanos is doing a MicroStrategy right now. They go short the common stock. They go long Bitcoin. They bet on MNAV compression. And if they're able to ever get that MNAV down to 1 or even below 1, and the market and that company doesn't have access to credit markets to borrow money to try to buy more Bitcoin or buy back their stock, they could be in this sort of dead zone where they're just hovering 1-to-1, just backed by their Bitcoin, and people will lose interest because they're no longer getting the leverage. Like, why hold one of these if you might as well hold the ETF at that point, and you're not subject to operational and counterparty risk. So I think there are a lot of intricacies, and I worry that people aren't familiar with all the things that can go wrong with publicly traded companies.
Larry, do you want to tab in here as
Good
well?
points. I mean, yeah, I would just make the following comment. I've had a lot of investors and friends ask me about these things, and I strongly believe that the core of everybody's Bitcoin investment strategy should be coins where you hold them yourself in cold storage. And, this is the best performing asset in the history of the world. It's going to continue to be that. And, I kind of say to people, start there. You need to have cold storage coins, full stop. I think I saw somebody on Twitter recently, a young fellow posted that he had sold all his coins. He was using it to buy Metaplanet. And I thought, I hit my head. I was like, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. And that's not a knock on Metaplanet, by the way. It's just an observation about the nature of this asset. It's very volatile, and it's going to perform extremely well. So when you decide you want to perform even better than this asset, fine, but understand that doing so involves risk, and these companies have risk attached. There's several risks. One, there's the management risk. I mean, who's to say the management teams aren't going to get greedy and pay themselves big salaries, particularly if they have control positions or they own all the voting stock. I mean, we've seen that in the miners, guys like Fred Thiel paying themselves $40 million a year. And, there's obviously all the other capital market risks associated with taking on leverage. And, leverage kills. I mean, it can enhance returns, but it can also crush you. And so, my overall view is, look, anything that supports Bitcoin and leads to more Bitcoin adoption and Bitcoin usage and Bitcoin accumulation, that's generally speaking good, particularly if it goes into strong hands. What I wonder is at the margin if some of these companies will be strong hands or they'll be weak hands. And the reason I say that, as you alluded to in your prelude, Ben, was just that if they get too levered up, they have too large a commitment in terms of debt or dividend payments, and the price swoons, then they're going to have to sell Bitcoin to make their commitments. So that's obviously the risk. And some of the MNAV multiples are quite high. I tend to believe that the MNAV multiples will kind of collapse towards Saylor's MNAV multiple of somewhere between 1.5 and 2.5. I mean, what Saylor's done is brilliant. And, he's figured out a way to let pools of capital that can't directly own Bitcoin, participate in the sense that, they might get a nice dividend yield or a convert yield, with upside. And so to me, that's great. We're demonetizing all these other financial assets, and that's a good thing. But as with anything else, there will be excesses, and we haven't been through a full cycle. And so I just caution people, with respect to that issue. I think that's what Matt, kind of alluded to as well.
Yeah. I'd echo that, especially the point of, somebody selling coins to exclusively hold Bitcoin treasury companies. I feel like that's completely missing the point. I was actually,
Absolutely.
yeah, I was tagged in a tweet earlier today, and this is again, Jeff Walton. He talks a lot about MicroStrategy, but he's saying that Bitcoin and cold storage should always be step number one.
Right.
And again, somebody here asking, hey, I've been in TradFi banking 20 years, recently got orange pilled. Why would I need to have one Bitcoin in cold storage first if MicroStrategy is 2x BTC? Help me understand. And somebody got tagged, and I mean, the main point is that, you know, Bitcoin itself is the thing. Whereas when you're buying, you know, a treasury company stock, you're trying to get exposure to the thing through the counterparty risk of the promises of the company, right? Like and so like I feel like if somebody wants to go and speculate on those things, it's a free market. You can absolutely go and do that, but you should have some Bitcoin. You should have, and I would say that your allocation to Bitcoin should definitely be larger than your allocation to you know, treasury companies. I think people discount the importance of good self-custody way too much. And again, like if I mean, you're at the place, if you're watching right now and you're like, I only own treasury companies and I don't own any Bitcoin myself, please fix that. Please learn how to get some Bitcoin, get it into self-custody, get it into a hardware wallet like a cold card or something like that, and just begin that journey, because that's how you actually truly protect yourself and become self-sovereign. It's important, and there's lots of resources for that. There you go. There's a QR code, and you can scan that, and there's literally a single page of every resource that you need for free to learn how to self-custody. So go do that if you have not already. But I digress. We're here to talk about why you gents are bullish, and so I'm very excited to have so many great minds in a single stream here, and so I'm going to tee up the first reason for being bullish, and actually, Matt, I'm going to toss it to you first, and you're going to get the same question everybody gets. But Matthew, why are you bullish? What are you so excited about currently?
I'm excited on, obviously it's nice to see the price hitting, the fiat price in dollars hitting new highs or getting close. I'm excited on some other metrics besides price, though, that there seems to finally be a sea change in the community where people are waking up and realizing that we have really two main centralization problems in Bitcoin. And the first one is obviously mining pool centralization, where we have just a few people in the world creating these block templates and deciding what goes into a block. And that's obviously a very dangerous place to be. And the second point of centralization is we have one main software implementation of the Bitcoin consensus rules, the reference implementation, which is Bitcoin Core. And I've spent a lot of time on the channel, those who follow this, talking about just the problems, the recent problems with, it appears that Bitcoin Core has gone rogue. And there's this disturbing trend we've been seeing really since 2023, where there's increased tolerance among the, you might even say the Bitcoin intelligentsia, increased tolerance of spam. And so the two things I'm bullish on Bitcoin NOTs adoption, which we're really seeing, just seeing movement away from having one centralized software implementation. And of course, Bitcoin NOTs is Bitcoin Core plus the work of Luke Dasher and some patches and some things that make a lot of sense. But just this change in thinking where people are it's almost like what's happening in politics globally. We're seeing these realignments. We're seeing people waking up in many different ways. And so the two movements would be people moving to Bitcoin NOTs, which can be largely symbolic, though it does have an effect on the network. And also, I'm very happy to see, even though I'm not affiliated, I don't have equity or options, or I'm not compensated in any way, I'm very excited to see Ocean Mining's hash rate taking off, because what they have is a very good product. You can use their Datum gateway, use Datum to create your own block templates and do solo mining, or you can mine with them. And this is, I'm not sure how much people realize what a problem this is, especially as we see Trump's coalition falling apart. And I'm sort of extrapolating to 2028, expecting everything to sort of move to the left again in the US. And if we still have centralized mining and we have Foundry here, and we have these attack vectors from the US government, that's gonna be a real problem. So to the extent we can decentralize block template construction over the next 3 years, this will solve one of the last remaining problems. And then Bitcoin, really, it's blue sky at that point.
I quite enjoy this topic, and I'm going to I guess kind of tag into it a little bit and then tee up some of the other our other guests just for thoughts or questions. But you know, as it pertains to knots itself, I think it's very encouraging to see that when there's an implementation that you know, puts forward a change to how that implementation works, that it doesn't have full consensus, where a lot of people are saying, do we want to change this? That there is a very real reaction from people that are running nodes. You can actually see a difference in distribution of who's running what, which is a signal to further say that, hey, you can't just do anything and have people go along with it. There's a very real feedback to that. And, you know, whether or not knots gets to, you know, a threshold where, you know, the filtering and those things have a larger effect on the network to the point where it actually really filters out those things, I don't know. But the main point is that there's feedback for when developers go against the grain or go against, you know, what a large swath of people would prefer. There's, you know, it's supposed to be, if there's not consensus, then it's the status quo. And that doesn't seem to be what happened specifically with the latest update in core. And so, yeah, I find it very encouraging. I don't know what knots is at right now. Is it like 13%, 14%, something like that of nodes being run, which is
it depends if you're filtering out. It looks like Bitcoin Core is running some AWS instances, and so you've got to. Luke Dasher has a better. He's got a website which tracks these things and treats like AWS as a single node. But yeah, we're at CoinDance. I think we're something like 13-14%.
Yeah,
and just in a couple of months, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's quite a meaningful percentage, even just as a symbolic, like, hey, there's a degree of unhappiness with the direction of development. And the other thing in regards to ocean mining, so for those that are uncertain, you know, what they've done, basically right now, typically if you're mining with most mining pools, those mining pools decide what transactions get into the next block. They're the ones that basically create that template. Okay, we're going to grab these transactions and put them through. Whereas with Ocean, you know, you can pick your own template. You can say, these are the transactions that I want in. And so what that does is, when you have people in a pool where you can actually choose your own block template, it further prevents censorship of, like, again, if you have centralized mining, a lot of centralized mining, and for instance, a nation state says, oh, anybody transacting with this address, we're going to exclude them. Exclude their transactions. It's not to say that those transactions wouldn't necessarily get through eventually, but it's going to be a lot more expensive to get those transactions through. And there may be instances, if the centralization is high enough, where you know, existing large mining pools may not build on top of a block that has sanctioned transactions in it.
Great point.
And so that could become a problem. So when you're implementing mining pools that allow people to create their own block template, it means that the mining pool doesn't get to say anything about what goes into the block. It's the individual miner who wins the block and mines it. They say, this is what's in the block, you know, and so you don't have to. We got to a point years ago where, what was it, ghash.io got to over 50% of over 50% of hash rate. And again, the issue there, like, people eventually migrated to other mining pools. And if a mining pool started to censor, right now, people would have to migrate. But with an example like Ocean, you don't have to migrate in that instance. When it comes to censorship, you set your block template as you please. So it further decentralizes things. It further prevents censorship. And I mean, same with when it comes to knots and core, it kind of decentralizes things. So I'm a fan of multiple implementations. And I think that might be the first inklings of, I don't toss around the term lightly, but ossification, dare I say, where it becomes much more difficult to make changes to Bitcoin if there are many different implementations that actually have a large threshold of users. Way harder to mess around with, we're going to increase the supply cap of Bitcoin or something. Nobody's going to screw with that. So, anyways, I went on a bit of a rant there, but Anil, Larry, either of you, if you have comments or questions about anything, like if you're unfamiliar, toss them out. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on any of this?
Go ahead, Anil.
I just think, I don't like to make decisions until I fully understand the choices in front of me. And it just goes back to the beauty of Bitcoin's backwards compatibility in that no one is forced to make a decision at the moment. They can keep running, if they're on a previous version of core and to see how it plays out, or until they fully understand what's going on here. So, again, I just think that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin.
There is a fairly small window there, though, because at some point, the current version of core, if you don't want to upgrade, the current version probably going to be some problem with the software, and there'll be some security holes or something. So that's when push really comes to shove in 3 to 9 months.
Yeah, fair enough. Larry, I
don't have a strong view on this one way or the other. I don't feel technically competent to weigh in on it. The people I know and respect support knots and support what Ocean's trying to do in terms of templates, and also the fact that Ocean just pays better than all the other pools. And it sounded to me as if Core somewhat misbehaved. I watched some of the interactions and the way they kind of treated everybody. I thought was not so great. And I do recall a conversation with Saylor at his place way back, a bunch of us there, and we asked him, we said, what could go wrong with Bitcoin, and what are you concerned about? I said, well, the only thing I'm really concerned about is that human beings have a tendency to tinker, and this thing's pretty good. And if we got a bunch of core people doing the wrong shit, that wouldn't be a good thing. And so I don't know if this qualifies. I don't know how big a threat Knots is addressing, but because I'm not technical, but I do know that I think it's great that there are people in the community standing up and trying to defend what I consider to be the core reason that Bitcoin exists, and that is monetary sovereignty, separating money from state. I mean, NFTs, all this other shit that they try and put on the network. I mean, to me, that's always been a distraction against the core mission of the coins. So, and I'm glad people are pushing back.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a DDoS. It's a DDoS attack on Bitcoin. And whenever you see the spam come through, we certainly saw it. People like Anita Posh, doing evangelism in Africa and trying to get people to open up their wallets, and they're all full of the transaction fees are 500 sats per VByte or something, and it's a gamified DDoS attack. So I think it's actually very serious, and we can be lulled into complacency thinking, well, they're just selling pictures and they're just JPEGs. But once you start, if these things can be monetized, and if the culture changes and this becomes the way that people begin to interact with Bitcoin, then it's very dangerous.
I don't disagree with that based on what I've heard.
Yeah, 100%. Anybody that is watching and curious about really any of the stuff that we're discussing, running core versus knots, being able to, even if you're just tinkering with mining at home, using some little something like a Btcsessions or something, again, peruse through the channel. There's tutorials on, how do I switch from core to knots? How do I run a home miner? How do I use something like Datum and Ocean mining? So there's tutorials on literally every single thing that we outlined here. Encourage you to check it out. And again, I'm going to I'm going to keep on showing this because I think it's important that people level up. But, you know, some mining stuff and everything is on the Zero to Hero page. So keep learning, never stop. You know, it's great to stack sats, but you also got to stack your skills. So, gentlemen, we're going to continue on. I'm going to give a quick sponsor shout out in a sec here. But on the other side of the hop, we're going to find out why Anil is so damn bullish. So we will see you guys in just a sec. If everybody watching, please give that like button a slap. Appreciate you guys being here. And we'll be back in just a minute. See you guys soon. Bitcoin Well is the best place to be buying and selling Bitcoin in Canada and the US. And now with Bitcoin Well Infinite, it's also the best place to be making large buys at their OTC desk of over $50,000. Their white glove service gives you fast transactions, no slippage, and the lowest fees. You can scan the QR code on the screen or simply head to bitcoinwell.com/BTCsessions to sign up today. And you can share your own personalized referral link to earn commissions.
If you've been around Bitcoin for more than a minute, you've definitely seen something made by CryptoCloaks. Since 2017, they've been the go-to for badass 3D printed Bitcoin gear, from custom home mining rigs to sleek hardware wallet mounts that make your setup look pro. I've been stacking Cloaks gear for years, and most recently I grabbed their Gamma case for my miner. Let me tell you, it turns some heads. You can customize everything, and of course, the legendary Bitcoin grenade, yeah, that's them. Hit the link in the show notes or scan the QR code to visit CryptoCloaks.com and stack your own custom Cloaks gear today.
DEBIFI is the best and easiest way to borrow against your Bitcoin in a non-custodial way. Funds are held in a multisig escrow where you hold a key, and the platform allows for excellent hardware like the Cold Card Mark IV and the Q. You have access to flexible conditions, the best rates, and institutional grade liquidity. If you're looking to make use of your capital, don't sell your Bitcoin, borrow against it. You can head over to DEBIFI.com to check them out, or simply scan the QR code on the screen. All right, we're going to give away some quick sats before we get into the next reason for being bullish. So all you need is a Lightning wallet, and I'm just here on Bitcoin Well. I'm going to toss a coin in the well. Basically, when you sign up, buy Bitcoin, all that stuff, refer friends, you earn points, and you can toss them into the well to win sats. Today, 618 sats for whoever scans it first with their Lightning wallet. If you do snag the sats before everybody else, which is exactly what happens, nobody gets it other than the first person, let us know in the chat. Love to hear it. Anyways, we are going to continue on, and Anil, I'm going to put you up here. And same question everybody gets. Anil, why are you bullish?
I'm bullish because it's getting easier to find signal amongst the noise. And if you know me, you know I care a lot about education. And there are some great events out there all around the world. And finally, there is an awesome event here in Vancouver where I am. It's called Learning Bitcoin. It's happening in mid-August at the beautiful Vancouver Convention Center. Ben, you are speaking yourself. Francis from Bull Bitcoin is speaking. You don't get much higher signal than that. Our mayor, who was personally orange-pilled by Jeff Booth, will be speaking. And you get a ticket for, I think, around about $100. So it's also excellent value. And it's purely about education. No noise, straight to it. And I think even the My First Bitcoin guys are throwing a unconference the day before as well. So a lot of great conferences out there. I think this will join the ranks of the likes of, BitBlock Boom and BTC Prague. Oh, and while I'm on the topic of education, just because he probably won't do it, I got to plug Larry's book. He gave me a copy on the way out of Bitcoin Vegas recently. Read it cover to cover in a single flight, and it's really become my now go-to book. I think
thank you. That's very kind.
Yeah, it does an incredible job, Larry. So congratulations again.
Congrats.
I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks.
Got mine signed with a block height and everything. It's great. Thanks for that, Larry.
And Matt, I owe you one. You got to give me your address. I'll send you one.
I appreciate that. I'll definitely take you up on it.
Just say it out loud on the show, Matt. It's fine.
Hit my DM with your mailing address, and I'll send you a signed
Okay.
Yeah,
Appreciate
please.
So, Anil, I want to kind of pull on this thread a little bit because, going to events, typically a lot of people's experience, and mine up until recently, it's like you go there and you watch some talks and you talk to other people, and it's a lot of like, hey, Bitcoin is so great. Here's the reasons why Bitcoin is so great, and let's talk about them. And then people do nothing. There's no subsequent action. Yeah, they might get some Bitcoin, but like there's learning of the why, but not the how. And so that's kind of what you're on right now. You're saying like that is shifting. Like how are you kind of seeing that shift taking place?
I think typically people change their behavior when they're forced to. Pain is information. And I think the result of the global economic conditions, more people are in pain and they're looking for an answer to why that is. And hopefully if they're curious enough to figure out the answer or the root cause, then they'll be able to understand what a potential solution might look like. And I think more people now than at any point in, say, the Federal Reserve's history actually know what the Federal Reserve is. So to me, that is incredibly bullish. And that's the first step.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've been seeing a lot more of kind of the hands-on, how do I actually use and secure Bitcoin, and a lot of that going around, and that makes me super bullish. I mean, that's kind of my the whole reason for the channel, and that's kind of my wheelhouse. But I've been seeing more of that incorporated into good events, right? Like, and prominently so, which is great. So like learning Bitcoin, I didn't get out to it last year, but I'm very excited to get out there this year. And Pablo from Bull Bitcoin is going to be one of the hosts of day one, I believe. And that dude is just an absolute boss, incredible educator. He was actually out here in Calgary for the Bitcoin Rodeo just a week and a bit ago, and then he also joined myself and Nathan from the show here, and the other guys from Bitcoin Mentor, and we did like a full day Bitcoin survival workshop out in the Rocky Mountains, which was amazing. And we went through, it was like a 6.5 hour workshop, and we did like set up a cold card, learned how to pair it with mobile and desktop, and did like a multisig and coin join and all this different stuff. Like I think it was the most I've ever taught to a single group of people in a single day. It was unreal.
Awesome.
But like, again, the people are hungry for this stuff. Like when we ask people, do you want like a longer break or do you want a short break to grab a coffee and come back? They're like, short break, 20 minutes and we're back in. So like they slogged through basically 6.5 hours of like brain melting Bitcoin skills in a single day, which is crazy. So hats off to, if anybody's watching this that made it up to the Rocky Mountain workshop, kudos to you, because that was a lot. But I think there's more of this coming down the pipe, right? Like we've got the Vancouver event. I also want to give a hats off to Bitcoin Atlantis in Madeira, because Andre there, who organized, I came to him with an idea and he just ran with it. And there was just like a full workshop area that I was able to curate of like skill, like hands-on walking through skills, taking questions and everything. And that was probably one of the busiest that I've ever been at a conference, but the most rewarding, because so many people packed that room to learn these skills. So I think it's super important. And I love that you brought up the education topic here. I want to maybe go to each, barring any other questions that you guys have, but in the panel, I'm kind of curious what you guys would say are some of the core skills that you think, either a newcomer Bitcoiner should have, or maybe getting a little bit further into their journey, maybe I'll go to Larry first. Like, as you were getting into Bitcoin and kind of understanding a few things, what would you say are like the couple core skills?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously running a node is a good skill to have, but I don't think that's as essential. Probably the first one is actually just being comfortable doing transactions and getting your Bitcoin off of an exchange. You know, in my case, it was getting the hell out of Coinbase because it was such a piece of shit. And finding who the better brokers are. And I tend to use Strike and River as my two choices. People use other choices, but then of course, self-custody and cold storage, and BIP39, the 12 words and all is essential. And I try and train all of my clients, and I have a lot of clients that I advise that the first thing they've got to do is get a core, get a wallet, and establish, put a little bit of Bitcoin on it, and then wipe the wallet out, and then reestablish it, and do that a few more times until they develop a real comfort with the fact that those words represent the coins, and that they understand how to do it, and that the nuclear launch code are the words, and so you've got to secure the words, and you're good. And I think in my case, I know you guys use lots of different things and support lots of different things, including the cold card. I haven't actually gone to the cold card yet. I've just been a simple Trezor guy all along. I think the high-end Trezor product is a very good product, and so I've walked through many Trezor demos with my boomer clients. Nice. and I think it's essential because I do believe that someday the blue team could win, and they could come back and try and tax or grab or go after the ETFs, whatever. And so I think having self-custodied Bitcoin that's job number one. If you want to be able to separate money and state, you got to take your money and separate it from anything that the state touches, and all the ETFs and all the companies. The state can touch them. I mean, if the state calls up Unchained and says, "Give us all your Bitcoin," they're going to have a problem, right? But if you're on your own, you're good to go. You can leave the country. You've still got your wealth. So to me, that's the core skill. I mean, there are a lot beyond that, I know. And you've got 16 million views. It's amazing, right? You've done so much good work in this area. So I'd kind of throw it back to you. I mean, what am I missing? What's the next level after you've got yourself secured on a cold wallet? What do you do next?
So, I mean, I'll go to the other guys in a sec here, but what I'll say to you, Larry, is we got to get you out to the mountains next year, and I'll give you that free cold card workshop.
Okay, yeah, we probably do.
I will say that, especially like the newer Trezors that now have added a secure element and stuff like that, and the Bitcoin only firmware, like they've definitely done some good work there, and it is a very easy to use device. Okay. I actually just recorded a side-by-side comparison video of like 5 different hardware devices that I looked at that I'm going to put out soon. But yeah, cold card, I think that's kind of like, in terms of hardware, it's interesting when you use some other devices and kind of like the proprietary software that goes with them, and then you jump to something like a cold card. The first foray into it, you're like, what the hell am I looking at? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, this is giving me so much more of an understanding of what I'm looking at. And I see like my UTXOs, and I see like the transaction graph, and like bit by bit, you learn the basics, and then you start asking, what's that thing there? And you level up, and what's this button do? And you level up. Okay. And so it's like a whole new aha moment as you interact.
I'm here for it. I need to sit down with you and have a personal instruction session.
We'll do it. We'll do it. Awesome. Well, I will tag in there after, but maybe I'll go to Matthew and then Anil, just in terms of what do you guys think are core Bitcoiner skills that would be great for people to level up with? So Matthew, I'll start with you.
Well, I think we can take guidance from Satoshi's app, which was obviously the first app, and that was a node, and it was a wallet, and it was a miner, all in one. You could press the button. That was well before my time, but you press the button, generate coins, and I came I came late to mining. We talked about this the last time I was on the show, that was my weakest skill. And I've learned a lot since then. I think it does make sense to start with cold storage and a hardware wallet, but quickly, and that's one reason I like Sparrow. And I know you've done some great tutorials on it as well, because you can start with Sparrow. You can set up a hot wallet. You can use a public node, a public Electrum server, and then you can link your cold card to it, and then you can migrate to your own node, etc. And then thanks to Star 9, then you can bring in the mining piece with Datum Gateway and your BitAxe. But I like to think of Satoshi's app, so it's node, wallet, and miner.
Nice. Larry's like, holy shit, what am I getting myself into?
No, I know I got to go there.
You can do it, Larry.
Even
you do much harder things, and
even a boomer can learn it. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm sure if I apply myself, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got the first step, and I know I got to go to multisig and do a lot of other things, but that's down the road a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's typically, it's a worry for people because they just haven't done it yet. It's just anything unfamiliar is going to seem foreign until you've done it once or twice, and then it becomes easier and easier. So, but Anil, I'll go to you as well. What do you figure are some of the core skills that Bitcoiners should look at and level up with?
I'll give you two. First is watching your channel. And the reason is, I think if we went back 1 cycle, 2 cycles, there are a lot of things that were prudent to do that people didn't do because it was intimidating. And now there is no excuse. Like, you will walk someone through step by step, setting up a cold card, for example. And, I now personally only recommend cold card to people who are at that step. And even if you're not, I would still recommend getting one, because the education you will get from using it, even experimentally, will more than pay for itself.
100%.
The second piece, I think, the way you can level up that is very, very simple and almost no one does it, is read history. Read more history, understand all the attack vectors that are out there that will, be cyclical and come back again. And that way you will avoid blow up risk.
Yeah.
So that's my main one.
I like that. Well, yeah, absolutely. I'll echo that cold card thing there as well. And caveat, hey, they're a sponsor of the channel, but I courted them. I hunted down Rodolfo and I said, you should sponsor the channel because I use the shit out of your product. So, but yeah, the medium becomes the education, right? Like you just by asking questions of what you're doing, you have these moments where you're like, oh, now I understand Bitcoin better. So it's definitely a great pathway to being a better Bitcoiner, in my opinion. But I digress. Anil, this was a fantastic topic. I'm huge on the education front, obviously. And I'll show it one more time again, just because I'm so passionate about people leveling up. But please do check out the Zero to Hero page. There's a ton of content there, but I've just kind of laid out like a few single videos for each topic, from beginner to intermediate to advanced, so that you can kind of, check out some options. But then there's playlists below for more options on each type of wallet or node or whatever. And then the other thing I'll say is, if you're going to be in the Vancouver area, do I still have that link in front of me? I don't know if I do. But please do go to Learning Bitcoin. Anil, off the top of your head, is it learningbitcoin.com? Is that right?
It might be .ca.
Let me learningbitcoin.ca. Yes, head to learningbitcoin.ca if you're going to be in the Vancouver area. And once again, it's August 16th and 17th. Some great educational hands-on opportunities, some great talks, some great people there. I'm looking forward to being there as well. So yeah, it should be a good time. But with that, we're going to jump to one more break. On the other side of it, Larry, I'm looking right at you. I'm curious why you're so
ready to go.
I have an
Macro.
inkling as to why you're so bullish, but
macro's coming.
yeah, we'll hear about it in just a minute. Everybody that's watching the stream, please do drop a like. It's very, very helpful. And we'll be back in just a sec with Larry Lepard and the reason why he's so bullish. See you guys in a minute. Looking for a simple and secure way to manage your Bitcoin on mobile? AQUA Wallet has you covered. It's user-friendly and puts you in full control of your Bitcoin with secure self-custody. AQUA also supports Lightning and Liquid Network, making fast, cheap Bitcoin payments and asset transfers easier than ever. Plus, it even supports stablecoins, giving you ultimate flexibility. Built on open source code, AQUA is transparent, trustworthy, and perfect for beginner and pros alike. Ready to upgrade your Bitcoin experience? Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen now to download AQUA Wallet today. Securing your Bitcoin doesn't have to be complicated or invasive. With NUNCHUK's HONEYBADGER plan, you get state-of-the-art multisig with built-in inheritance planning and no KYC required. NUNCHUK is trusted by users to secure billions of dollars in Bitcoin. The HONEYBADGER plan offers 204 assisted multisig, guiding you step-by-step on mobile or desktop. It works seamlessly with hardware wallets like TapSigner, ColdCard, Jade, and plenty of others, so you're always in control. Plus, with non-KYC inheritance planning, you can ensure your Bitcoin goes to your loved ones. No private info needed. Take control of your Bitcoin today. Click the link in the show notes or scan the QR code on the screen to check out the HONEYBADGER plan. CoinKite has been in the game for years, creating hands down the best and most secure hardware when it comes to securing your Bitcoin. The ColdCard Q is an absolute powerhouse and my daily driver, and it's ideal for newcomers and advanced users alike. The TapSigner gives you a low-cost, user-friendly option for those just getting started or for convenience when traveling. You can head to coinkite.com and use code Btcsessions for discounts, or simply scan the QR code on the screen to get started right away. All right, we are back in, and I will say anybody that wants to maybe win a cold card, just join the mailing list here on the website. There's a place where you can just plunk in your email, and being on the mailing list, automatically you're entered in every single month to win a cold card queue for free. And we'll just let you know. We'll let CoinKite know, and you'll be able to claim and ship your cold card queue if you happen to be a winner. But with that, Larry, I'm going to bring you up beside me, and I'm going to tee you up with the same question everybody gets. Larry, why are you so damn bullish?
I'm incredibly bullish. You know, what's going on in macro world is really quite amazing, and I'm not sure everybody's focused on it and aware of what's happened. I mean, just to kind of recap the last 6 months, you know, Trump came in and they put Doge into place, and they talked about trying to balance the budget. And, you know, I've often said the one case against Bitcoin or gold as investments would be if the government ever got its act together and balanced the budget. And, you know, so Elon comes in with Vivek, and they're going to take 2 trillion out, which of course is ridiculous. And then 1 trillion, and that was pretty ridiculous too. And now it turns out it's maybe 100 billion. And it's all good. I mean, I applaud the effort, but you know, as what they found is that Lynn's statement is true. Nothing stops the train. And so the Doge effort is, you know, maybe going to save a couple $100 billion a year. And then they come with the tariffs very aggressively, rather poorly explained, et cetera, trying to solve that problem. And they immediately tank the stock market and realize, oh shit, we can't do that. You know, another reason why kind of nothing stops this train. And so he puts a 90-day tariff delay on to get the stock market back up, because he needs the stock market up. So if the stock market rolls over, tax receipts roll over, the economy rolls over. So, and of course, then the acronym TACO got, you know, coined. And, you know, so the tariffs, you know, come and go, and then they get delayed. Now he's coming back at them. We'll see how the market reacts to that. But, and then finally, the final piece of this puzzle that I thought was very interesting was that originally Bessent criticized Yellen for, you know, going to short-term issuance on all the bonds, you know, when she had a chance in the 2021 timeframe to term out a lot of the debt at lower interest rates. And he criticized that decision. He implied that maybe he would term them out, you know, as well. But what we've seen very recently is that he has absolutely no plan of doing that. In fact, he's going the other direction. and they're shoving everything into the short-term, short-term bills in terms of the money that they're raising to cover the deficits. They just increased the amount of short-term bills that they're going to issue 2 times, 25 billion times 2, and he announced he's going to try and take the TGA up to 500 billion. And that's relevant. The TGA is the Treasury's checking account, and the TGA is what he's been using to buy the longer bonds when they become illiquid or when the bond market gets closer to the 10-year, which they watch very carefully. When it gets to 4.4 now, when it gets to 4.5 or 4.6, they get very nervous. If it goes to 5, they have a heart attack. And so what you're seeing is, from time to time, he's using the TGA to go in and buy bonds. And all of these things really indicate that the federal government is trapped. And of course, because he's a Democrat and because he hates Trump, Powell's not willing to play along. And so, you've seen this incredible, verbal attack from the president on Powell. I mean, coming out, sending him a note and saying the rates are wrong and implying that we should take rates down to, 100 basis points, to drop them by 300 basis points, take them down to 1.25 or something. And, very, very aggressively calling on him to resign, et cetera. And of course, the more he does this, the more Powell will dig in. Because Powell wants to be remembered as Volcker, and he doesn't want to have the whole thing blow up on his watch. And maybe he can get out till next May. But then they came in with another strategy, which I find fascinating, which is they said, okay, Powell, you're not going to leave. You're not going to cut rates for us. That's simple. We're going to create a shadow Fed president. We might even appoint somebody now to be the next head of the Federal Reserve. And by the way, we'll probably pick somebody who's extremely dovish. And then hopefully what the market will do is they'll look through the next 9 months or 10 months from now, between now and next May, knowing that when that guy gets in or gal gets in at that time, we're going back to ZIRP and QE. And so, that'll juice the markets. And then I guess there's one more piece of the whole plank. Somewhere along the line in here, Percent and Trump and others kind of threw up their arms and admitted, well, this is when the big, beautiful bill came down, right? And they were going to cut expenses. And of course, the whole Freedom Caucus has disappeared. And there are only 2 people left in that, Rand Paul and Thomas Massie. And of course, Trump attacked them aggressively. And, they ended up increasing the deficit, increasing the spending, increasing the debt limit. But Trump came around the other side and said, but don't worry, we're going to outgrow it. And so, what that implies to me, and I watched the stock market recover. I mean, I thought the stock market cracking on the tariffs was a serious crack that wouldn't be recovered from. And here we are at new all-time highs. And so I'm beginning to think that what we're looking at here is actually what von Mises described as a crack-up boom, which is, they just keep printing money and finding sources of money to shove into the system, and everything goes up because it has to go up. And so anyone who studied history, as Anil alluded to, Venezuelan stock market, the Weimar, the stock markets in highly inflationary economies can do pretty well because stocks represent a claim on a business's earnings, future earnings. And so, it feels to me like that's the direction that they're aiming to take us. Now, whether they'll be successful at doing that, I don't know. But one thing is for sure, if Trump is going to emphasize growth, he's going to need cheaper money to do it. He's already angling to get that, and he will get that. We know for a fact next May. And so my sense is, this is, the big print, so to speak. I mean, it may not be coming tomorrow, but it's definitely coming sometime before the middle of next year. And markets are forward looking, right? They don't just look at what's happening now. They look at what they expect to happen. And if we do a shadow Fed president and we continue our assault on Powell, I think there's a very good chance that the asset markets are going to look through all this, and Bitcoin's going to 400 and gold's going to 5,000. So I'm incredibly bulled up on what I see happening, because even Trump himself has admitted that we can't balance the budget. He supported the big beautiful bill, and he's taken the path which says that we're going to grow our way out of it. And there's only one way to get the kind of GDP growth that they're looking for, and that's massive inflation. And the only way to get massive inflation is to get massive growth in the money supply, which of course we all know has to be coming. And that's what my book outlined, has to eventually happen. And, they've had a lot of tricky ways of doing it. I mean, there's, in the Genius Act, there's something that says that, $3 trillion of bank reserves that are stored with the Fed might be able to be used. And this is kind of gray, to back stable coins. And, Trump is talking about how big they are on stable coins. Of course, they're huge stablecoin supporters, because if there were $3 trillion of stablecoins, then those, as we all know, the stablecoin issuers are huge buyers of the treasuries, and we got a lot of treasuries to sell. So kind of wrapping all of that up, it's not coming in the traditional fashion. We don't have ZIRP yet. We don't have QE yet, although they did cut the QT from 25 trillion or billion a month to 5. And maybe if something breaks, the Fed will be forced to act before Powell leaves. But even if they're not, we know what's coming come next May. So the big print, in my view, is still imminent, and the markets, I believe, will front run it. And that's why Bitcoin's an all-time high today, and gold is bumping up right against its all-time high. So that's a lot.
Can I just say?
A lot of
sorry
stuff.
to interrupt you, Larry.
No, that's it. I'm done.
I love being in this room where none of us seem remotely excited about the all-time high, because that's the signal. Everyone's looking out long-term, not getting caught up in the hype. I love it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's 12 grand. I look, I mean, talk to me when it gets to 200, right? I mean, then I'll be like, all right, now we're talking.
I feel something again.
Yeah, I feel something. I mean, and I feel like I've been telling my clients, I mean, I think we're 140 to 200, within 12 months easily.
Yeah.
So
Larry, I want to ask you just in regards to, so the big beautiful bill, if I'm not mistaken, that adds what, 5 trillion additional
over a 10-year window, I think. Yeah. And so
how does this compare historically to?
Well, it's just, I mean, we're already running $200 billion or $2 trillion annualized run rate deficits where we're at right now. Now, to be fair, Doge did accomplish some things, and it's probably knocking 100 or 200 off of that. And I just read that the tariffs are bringing in 20 to 30 a month, so call maybe another 200 there. So that all helps. But then if you turn around and look at the big beautiful bill, and you look at just the defense, I mean, here's an area where I got surprised. I thought Trump was anti-war. I thought Trump might actually go after the defense budget. I mean, I sat at a conference and talked to David Stockman. He said that's the biggest pile of shit in the country. I mean, we're spending almost $1 trillion on defense, and it's not even smartly spent. We're spending it on big things that drones can take out. We should be spending it on drones, because drones will be the future of warfare. And I thought maybe Trump would keep defense flat, but no, it's gone up. Partly because of the war in Israel, but also because of Ukraine, etc. And so, I just don't see anything that slows down this spending. I mean, at the end of the day, the system is constructed in a way that even the Freedom Caucus that ran on the whole issue of controlling spending, they all got rolled over by Trump. And so be it. I mean, if that's the case, fine. I think the answer is we prepare for a crack-up boom. And the price of, the good news is the price of Bitcoin is going to be higher. The price of gold is going to be higher, et cetera, et cetera. The bad news is, we're going to get another wave of food inflation, similar to what happened the last time around, where, money supply grew 40% in the COVID example. So it's, it is what it is. It's the system we live in. And I think ultimately it'll fall apart, and Bitcoin will be the numeraire. But we probably got a few backs and forths before we get to that stage.
Did you see that? I think it was today that Trump was basically saying that we're the interest rate is at least 3 points too high. Basically, we should drop it.
Yeah, no, he wants free money. I mean, he's a debt guy. He's a real estate guy, and they need free money. I mean, they really do. I mean, look at we're spending we got 37 trillion in debt. We're spending close to $1.2 trillion or 3. I'm sure the run rate on the interest costs. If you took those short-term bills down to 1%, you would cut your interest costs substantially. Now, I'm not sure necessarily who's going to be buying those bills at 1%. I mean, I think it's you get into real problems. I mean, like the federal government is bankrupt, and it's kind of like it's close to checkmate. And so how quickly it unwinds, I can't say, but it could unwind pretty quickly. I mean, what happens if we wake up one day and Bitcoin's at 400 and gold's at 10,000? I mean, to me, that's a sovereign debt crisis. I mean, we're kind of on the cusp of a sovereign debt crisis right now, And, I think that it wouldn't take a lot more to shove us over the edge. I mean, how are people going to react when these things start going up, when Bitcoin starts going up $10,000 a day, or gold starts going up $500 a day? I mean, this is I mean, the model, and I talk about it in my book, is it's smoke in a theater where a few people smell it and they get out, and then eventually everybody knows it's there.
I usually don't take questions from the audience in the middle of a stream, but I did see this one, and I thought that, Larry, you might.
Sure, I haven't been watching the stream because I've been talking. But
yeah, so there's a dude. It's funny because he's always got quite good questions, but his screen name is hilarious. So this question from Pooed in the Cereal. He says, Larry, thoughts on the M1 velocity barely rebounding since 2020, while M2 velocity has. Are they in favor of stable coins to increase liquidity before big print? So, I mean,
I think the answer is yes. I mean, they're in favor of stable coins just because it helps them sell their debt. M1 and M2 velocity have been slowly trending up. I think it's interesting that the US has not been printing much, but Canada, as I just retweeted it this morning, you guys are doing great. Your M2 is growing about 8% a year.
And, we're really good at that up here.
Yeah, you're great at that. And China is even a bigger number. So, and as we all know, it's global liquidity that matters because all the money is very fungible. And so, yeah, it's look, you can just see it and feel it coming. I mean, and what's really interesting to me, again, I point out, just kind of wrapping all my comments into one, is look at how the Trump administration, look at the change that's taken place from where we started to where we are now. We started with, we're going to balance the budget and we're going to put all these tariffs in. The tariffs are going to pay for everything. That's going to go down, blah, blah, blah. Now we're at, well, that didn't work so well. The market cratered when we put in the high tariffs. Let's party on, Garth. And you know what? We're going to grow our way out of this thing. And if that means we got to cut rates by 300 basis points, well, then we're cutting them by 300 basis points. I mean, there's just no way you can't interpret that as being enormously inflationary, and it will be.
Yeah. And
so I've often said this decade's like the 70s, where you had these waves of inflation, right? We had the first wave was COVID. And then Powell, jumped in and said, "Oh, no, I'm taking rates up fast." And he did. And he kind of got it back in the can, kind of. It went from 9 down to the 3-ish. The target's 2. But now, I think we're kind of looking at the beginning of the next wave. And it's probably only, 7-8 months away. And the markets might front run it knowing that it's coming. Right.
Yeah. He's really teeing up what he would like potentially Besant to do when he gets.
Well, that's right. I'm not sure if he'll pick Besant, though. He might pick Hassett. I mean, he's going to pick somebody, though, that's going to be very, very loose. And it's interesting. There was an article in the New York Times this morning. Well, it doesn't matter who he picks if he does pick somebody who's loose. The boards, it's a board vote, but that's bullshit. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you read any history of the Federal Reserve, the chairman bullies everybody into what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. So if the chairman says we're going to ZERP and QE, we're going to ZERP and QE. Yeah. And that's pretty much what they've got to do if they want to keep it going, in my view. And so we'll just have to wait and see. I mean, it's, there are a lot of moves. I mean, I saw somebody tweeted today that Powell's going to resign. I don't think Powell's going to resign. He's going to get a lot of grief, though. I tweeted out recently, he's talking about doing a $2.5 billion renovation of the Eccles building in Washington, D.C. I mean, this is like the Marie Antoinette Award. I mean, he's got a $200 billion deficit that the Fed has run, that he's calling a deferred asset, which is total horseshit, and he blew the call on transitory inflation. I mean, he's in so many ways, he's just been totally wrong. He cut rates twice to try and help Biden. It didn't work. Now we've actually got lower inflation. He's not cutting rates. Okay. And he's proposing that we spend $2.5 billion to renovate this old building in DC. I mean, the guy is just, he's living in another world, and that's fine. He can continue to live there and he can hold rates where they are. But what he's going to find is that, the markets are going to move beyond him pretty quickly, because he's now officially, quote unquote, a short timer. He's done in May.
Yeah, Absolutely. Now, I want to defer to the rest of the panel if you guys have things you wanted to tag in here or questions of Larry, Matthew, or Anil. Either of you want to jump in?
I'll jump in briefly. I remember that period during the bear market when a lot of us, there was the Bitcoin bear market. There was nothing to do except make macro videos, and everyone was trying to time the money printers. And so I made a lot of videos then. And the one I remember the most was I used this famous Robert Frost poem that's about the end of the world. Some say that the world will end in fire, some say in ice. And I use that as a metaphor for fires, of course, inflation, and ice is deflation. And then I went through and looked at historically, and ice is deflation and austerity, which never works because the politicians get thrown out. And so I think, I agree with everything Larry said. And I think when you're trying to choose between austerity and growing your way out, the guy who is fond of gold toilets is not the guy you bring in to do austerity. Like Trump is, you don't think austerity, you think Trump. Yeah. And so, but it would have been inevitable with Kamala or whomever. And
I was going to say, I mean, it was a better choice than the alternative. But the thing I worry about is, okay, so now we're 4 years from now, inflation's very high. Maybe the economy and employment have held together okay, but inflation's very, very high. And, you get a politician similar to this guy in New York, and he comes and starts promising all kinds of things. People are hurting.
UBI.
And Team Blue wins. And, Elizabeth Warren has got a real voice. And as far as she's concerned, Bitcoin and gold are ruining the Keynesian economic model. And they need to be taxed and seized and all kinds of bad stuff, right? That's, I mean, and there's history of chief executives making those kinds of decisions. I mean, it's supposed to, the monetary stuff is supposed to be in the Constitution. It's supposed to be controlled by Congress. But in fact, Nixon took us off the gold standard. Roosevelt seized the gold. Lincoln printed greenbacks and created the first form of fiat. So, and none of them had any kind of congressional backing to do what they did. And so, we got to make hay here in this next 4 years, because if Team Blue wins in 4 years, Stephanie Kelton's going to be Treasury Secretary, and that's frankly how I think we get to hyperinflation.
Yeah.
So,
well, Larry, you're making a great case for self-custody.
Right. I mean,
this is exactly why people need to self-custody their Bitcoin and not rely strictly on.
Yeah, I mean, people should remember that. I mean, if the government were to call up Fidelity or BlackRock or any one of these ETFs and say, we've decided to outlaw Bitcoin in the United States, please send all those coins to us and pay your people out in the cash. Give them the cash they get for the coins. Send them to us. We'll print the cash. You can have it. They're going to get cashed out at yesterday's price. Those organizations would have to do it. They would have to follow the law. Of course, the price of Bitcoin would soar, the following day, but you wouldn't own any of it, if you were in an ETF. So those of us who are not, we may not like it either. They might decide they want to tax us or come to our houses and grab it. But, I'm chronically having these boating accidents. And,
you and me both, man. You and me both.
Yeah, I mean, they're dangerous. And to be frank, I mean, there's a point in time at which I'm not a citizen of the United States anymore either. So I hope I never have to go there, because I love this country. I want to fix it. But if the government goes rogue on Bitcoiners, we're going to go rogue right back on them.
Yeah, 100%.
I hope so.
Anil, I want to get any thoughts or questions or whatever you want to toss in here as well.
I think it all comes back to everything we're talking about is just increasing uncertainty and increasing entropy. And all the Bitcoiners kind of understand that, and they've opted out, which means the repercussions of everything that does happen in the future is just going to fall on fewer and fewer shoulders over time. So again, it's just like a call to action, educate the ones you love, get them to understand this, because it's at a point now where it's really important.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's why I wrote the book. I just wanted to try and help average people. I mean, I think it's those of us who are aware of the macro can see this train, that Lynn talks about. It's just coming down the track. And, there's a lot there. As Anil pointed earlier, one of the best things you can do as investors is study history. There's so many historical examples of this. And to think that we can pursue all the policies that all these other countries pursued that led them to serious inflation, depressions or hyperinflation, and not have consequences. I mean, certainly we've been able to do it because we've been the reserve currency and we're the leading country in the world, but that doesn't always have to be the case. So I think it's, that's why we all Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, 100%. Well, gentlemen, I am conscious of time here, and we're coming up on our end. But before we go, I'm just going to do a quick round. Any final thoughts, little tidbits you want to toss to people, or recommendations for them to check out, where they can find you, anything for them to maybe watch or read or whatever. And I'll just kind of go down the line. Maybe Anil, I'll go to you first. And even though you might do it, not do it yourself, I'm going to bring up. Here's the website. Is this the best place to be sending people to?
Yeah, that's a good place. So I have a book called the Bitcoin Handbook. If you want to grab it for free, head to my X handle, get a free copy. Later this year. Oh, actually, also on that page, there's literally thousands of slides. If you're ever giving a presentation on Bitcoin, there's no sponsors, there's no noise, it's all free. Use them if you're ever speaking at a meetup. Public speaking is hard. Let me solve like half of the problem for you. And then later this year, I will have, as Ben mentioned, my upcoming book is about, it's actually taking the work of Michael Saylor, a lot of his interview transcripts and speeches, and putting it in a book that should be out in Q4 this year. And as always, the digital version will be completely free for anyone.
Awesome. That's great. And Anil's handle is in the show notes, so go check it out. Check out the website. And check out the books, plural. I'll toss it over to Matthew next. Of course, we got to shill Bitcoin University here. Let's pump those numbers up. Already a huge channel, 274,000 subscribers. One of the absolute best in Bitcoin. Great content on the regular. But Matthew, any final thoughts? Anything you want to point people towards?
I would just encourage people. We really need people who we really need Bitcoin plebs who take Bitcoin seriously. If you're not running a node, if you're not mining, you need to do both of these things. If you love Bitcoin and if you want, humanity only has one chance for this. So I refer you to Btcsessions channel. He's got great tutorials. The one on Bidax, the one on Sparrow Wallet, the one where he shows how to run a Bitcoin NOTS node. And then I've done my own on Bitcoin University. But that's the most important thing you can do, because we've got a little bit of breathing room here with Trump, and the wheels are already coming off. And I fear that things are going to get really, really bad in the coming years. And so we need an army of really strong plebs running nodes, preferably running Bitcoin NOTS nodes, so we can solve this problem, and doing pleb mining as well. So please take that seriously. And there's just so much great free material on YouTube. Spend a weekend, spend a couple hours every weekend, and really increase your skills and think forward what's going to happen, because things could get really, really bad for American Bitcoiners, for Canadian Bitcoiners. What are we going to do? We're a decentralized, distributed movement. We've got a little bit of breathing room here, but I'd encourage everyone to prepare and increase your skills.
Absolutely. Love that. And Larry, I'll toss it to you, of course. Got the
first of all, I want to thank Matt and Anil for bringing that up. I haven't been familiar with your work on either of you, and I'm going to go dive in, and I'm going to start running a NOTS node and try and level up BTC. I haven't been doing all my homework. I guess I watch the macro stuff too much, but obviously my contribution to the space has been the book. Some like it, some don't, but it's the best I could do. And I'm a book whore, as they say. I'm not, you don't make much money on these books, but I do think it's a decent tool for, orange pilling boomers. And that was kind of what it was written for. And hopefully we can kind of pass it around. And the more it goes viral, the more people that are aware of it. I've had a lot of stories of success with it, some of failure, but I just encourage people to, direct people to the book, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great read. Highly recommend. Go check it out. And I guess to round out here, I'll say again, go check out this Zero to Hero page. I'll plunk this along the bottom so that you guys can find it easily. But there's a little bit of everything here: hot wallets, cold wallets, you know, coin join, running a node, running your own Lightning node, multisig, all this different stuff. And then there's playlists to dive deeper on all of those topics with various different options. So highly encourage you guys to check that out. And secondly, if you need actual hand holding, like if you need like step by step, somebody's going to tell me exactly how to do this because you're worried to do it on your own. Of course, I've got a team over at bitcoinmentor.io, all personally trained by myself, incredible educators. You can check them out as well. But with that, gentlemen, thank you so much. This was incredible. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I really appreciate all of your time. And everybody, across YouTube, X, Rumble, looking like nearly 9,000 or 10,000 people that have tuned in over the course of this stream. Thanks for being here. Smash that like button, share it wherever you're watching it. Really appreciate that. And with that, we're out. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. We'll see you next time for your daily session. See you guys.